they actually went ahead and remade Final Fantasy VII for the PS4. I can't believe it. Yes, I'm blonde now, just deal with it. Technically 15 years in the making. 15 years since that 2005 tech demo for the PS3 that we was all like, oh my god, they're actually remaking it. Psych! They didn't do it, but they've come back now and they actually went ahead and did it. So there was going to be like a script for this video and I tried recording it, but I realised that me and scripts, like, they don't work. It's easier when I'm just here talking nonsense and just as it comes to me. Yes, we finally have this game. This is probably my most anticipated game other than Kingdom Hearts 3, which in some ways I loved amazingly and in other ways really disappointed the heck out of me. This game is a completely different story. I love 85% of this game, and that's a strong 85%, like, don't get me wrong. Like, this game, I didn't expect to love as much as I did, because I went in with a crazy amount of expectation, because it's a remake of my, like, all-time favourite game, tied only with Kingdom Hearts 2. I went in with a crazy amount of hype that I didn't think it could fulfill. In many, many ways, this game does fulfill it. The only issues I have, I'm sure they're the issues that you have too, and we will get to it, but if you're expecting me to just rip on this game from start to finish of this video, then you came to the wrong video, my friend, because like I said, I adore this game. First thing that I want to say is a very big thank you to Square Enix for going ahead and shipping this out early to people majorly affected in countries across the world by COVID-19, as I'm sure you're aware. If you're watching this from the future, hello. We're currently in our homes where everyone else should be, avoiding the coronavirus and trying to keep people safe, so stay strong out there and enjoy this game because it's getting me through that kind of health. Yeah, so a massive thank you to Square Enix, and I know that some people are mad that I got this early. Calm down. No, calm down. Because at least I didn't go ahead and leak it like some other people out there. I waited my damn turn. I didn't post more than a photo of this box before April 10th. As soon as you open the box for this game, you're hit with that nostalgia. That's the original North American cover of Final Fantasy VII, but redone, and it's like, it's just perfect. I'm so happy they included this regular case of the deluxe edition, because I would have been kind of sad if they didn't. You got your mini soundtrack. I could have gone for a few more songs, maybe a few different picks, but hey, you've given me music from this game, so I'm not complaining. The art book, definitely recommended. It's beautiful. I have nothing else to say, it's beautiful. And of course we get the steelbook case with your boy Sephiroth, which, yeah, it's beautiful. I don't have much else to say. I guess my first question going into this game was going to be, how is it going to hold up in comparison to the original? I think this game does an incredible job at both honouring the original game whilst throwing in new elements to complement it better, like cooking a meal and then seasoning it. That's what this game is like. For example, there's that side character Johnny from the original game who's standing outside the honeybee and just being a real like, hey, where's Tifa? I'm in love with Tifa and blah blah blah. He is a whole thing now. He is a reoccurring character who will pop up and annoy the heck out of Cloud, and it's just a joy to watch. Like, there's segments where he's just calling him bro and Cloud is just not about it. Yes, I think this game holds up to the original remarkably well, especially in the atmosphere. Like, playing this game, you get the exact same atmosphere you did when you played through that Midgar section in your first playthrough of Final Fantasy VII, I would say. The Midgar section itself, if you haven't played the original, if you've played Kingdom Hearts 2, you know that beginning bit in Twilight Town? That's what it originally was, which is why so many people were worried when they were like, why are they making it just Midgar only? That's like that's the shortest section of the game. It's basically an extended tutorial section. And admittedly, at one time or another, I was really worried about that too, but I think the concern of, is this game going to feel like a full experience? I can confirm for you, yes, because I finished the story mode. That took me about 42 hours, and I'm still cracking on through it, doing all the side stuff, and the new game plus, and the hard mode, and all that kind of stuff, and I've still got a long way to go. The characters of this game are the same as the original, or we get a few more. So let's talk about Cloud first, who is back with a new voice actor. We don't have Steve Burton anymore. We still don't know why they took the Advent Children cast and just decided to go in a different way, because in the early trailers for this game, the Advent Children cast are present and you can hear them. And then they took a hiatus from the trailers, came back, and I think it was 2018, 2019, we had a whole new voice cast. And that was like a transition progress for me, because I was like, hey, I love this Steve Burton, that's Cloud Strife, that's his voice to me. But they're going in a different direction, and the cast we did end up getting, they're phenomenal. Like, they are phenomenal. They go to such depths, and for me the standouts are John Bentley, who plays Barrett. He just gives so much depth to Barrett that I hadn't seen in the original game. Barrett in the original game, he does have depth. He's got a cool ass backstory that makes him who he is, and he's a dad at his heart. But he's also played for laughs and he's cartoony. This Barrett, he's different. He is that same Barrett. He is still there and he can make you laugh. I've laughed so many times throughout Barrett's dialogue. But at the same time, he is so grounded and he feels so real and alive. He's irreplaceable. So mad props to John Bentley on that one. As much as I love the banter between Cloud and Barrett, because there's a lot of it, they are bickering throughout the entire game, nothing is as wholesome as the banter between Red 13, my favourite character, and Barrett.
Nice job. What? Shit! What the hell, Red?
I loved that moment more than I love breathing. Also, I guess it's okay that he wasn't playable, but also he was in it enough that I guess controlling him a little bit wouldn't have been too bad. I would have loved that, but whatever. His voice actor was fantastic. It was good to see him get more lines than he ever got in Advent Children. I can't wait to see him in Part 2. Brianna White as Aerith is flawless, and Cody Christensen as Christian as Cloud, I believe is his name, Cody Christian. He's fantastic. Speaking of Cloud, his character is so perfect in this game. If you look at the original game and compare it to other works where you go from Kingdom Hearts to Advent Children, he's just played as this kind of moody, kind of, let me brood and blah blah blah. This takes you back to that Cloud from the original, who was just trying his best to be cool and seem edgy, even though he's actually a complete goofball. He's a goofball. Cloud is a goofball. He's doing his best to look so uncaring, but he really does care.
Used to think you were a little shit with a big attitude and a bigger inferiority complex. Quite possibly the worst person I have ever met. But that was before I figured you out. All this, it ain't you.
Deep down, you're a pretty nice guy. Didn't see it when we were kids, but...
Don't know about any of that. But kindness is no use on the battlefield. If anything, it's a liability.
There's a moment where he's jumping from a falling bridge or something, and Jesse's like, hey, that's dope. And he's like, yeah. Like, internally, he's like, but he's just like, he knows he's cool, but he's trying his best to look cooler than he is. Speaking of Jesse, I'm in love. So Jesse in the original game was this character who had up to an hour of screen time, and you've gone back and you've just given her so much life. Like, she's become one of my favorite characters in the whole compilation of Final Fantasy VII. You end up doing this little side quest where you go to her house because she's like not convinced that the bomb she built could have been that destructive, so she wants to go and raid a Shinra warehouse to figure it all out and that kind of stuff. And you do this little side quest and you end up going to her house and you see her dad, who's sick with Marco poisoning, and I think that resonates with Cloud a little bit. And then you look around that room and you find out that Jessie is actually just an aspiring actress, and she got caught up in this world, and she actually used to perform in the Golden Saucer in that play with the princess and the knight and the wizard and all that kind of stuff. It's even harder when she's like, hey, do you want to come around later? And you click yes, knowing that that's probably not going to happen because you're now about to go to the mission for the second reactor, and you know that after that you go see Aerith, and after that you link up with Tifa, and you come back and you've got to save the second place. So you click yes, knowing that that's probably not going to happen, and it's kind of heartbreaking. So you get to Sector 7, and this is the first time you see Tifa, and Tifa Lockhart has been brought to life incredibly well. I can't remember the voice actress's name off the top of my head, but if you ever happen to see this, you've done a fantastic job, and I think Tifa Lockhart, you've done an incredible amount of justice to her. Tifa Lockhart was I was Team Tifa back in the day. I feel like I'm still leaning Team Tifa, but man, when you threw Jessie into the mix and this new version of Aerith, it's really, really hard. It's hard to say I am solidly Team Tifa these days, regardless of how well she is. She lives in Sector 7, and you actually end up getting a spot there too. You live in this little kind of apartment complex, and Sector 7 itself has been expanded in a fantastic way. There's reoccurring characters. There's Marl, who is the landlady for Tifa, and she's actually kind of super annoying to Cloud. She's always critiquing him like, oh yeah, you got a big sword, but what about your brains and all that kind of stuff, which is all funny. Sephiroth in this game I thought was fantastic. He looks intimidating as hell, and I love Cloud's every reaction to seeing him. Like, Cloud looks so terrified every time this dude is on screen. It's perfect. It's just perfect, because it breaks down that cool guy, kind of tough persona that Cloud is putting on throughout the whole game, and then as soon as he sees Sephiroth, he's like, ah. It's incredible. Like, it's incredible. That's what I think about Sephiroth. So let's talk about the side quests and content for this game. They are mostly very generic, but what I really dig about them is they don't get in the way. They don't feel intrusive. They happen when it feels natural, which is something the developers went ahead and actually spoke about. Those. Like, it's kind of they're there when they're needed. One of the downsides of the side quests is you can either commit to doing them all in your first go, or you're going to have to wait to come back later, either in New Game Plus or just start a new game. Some of the quests you won't get the opportunity to do again unless you kind of New Game Plus it. The New Game Plus is like a chapter selection, so it's not as deep as it could be. One of the issues that I'm having with the chapter selection is I'm finding that not every cutscene is skippable. So if I'm doing like a big boss fight, there's sections of that fight, this is specifically about the ending fights. There's big sections where you can't skip it because the cutscene takes place within a fight, and that can be quite annoying if you're getting your butt kicked a lot. So that'd be helpful if you could do something about that. If you want to patch that, that'd be cool with that. There's also, outside of that, there's just general cutscenes that some you can skip and some you can't, I've noticed. I don't know why that is. That probably will get patched in at some point. The side quests themselves are ranging from like witchery kind of go take out this monster for me to there's a cat, there's a little girl who says she's friends with Marlene, even though I've not seen them in the same room ever, and she wants you to go find her cats who are her friends.
Is Marlene with you? I was kinda hoping she could help me find my friends.
You don't have any friends.
One of the more memorable side quests is this arc with the Angel of the Slums. You have to go on this whole journey. This news reporter from Shimmer wants you to find out who she is. So you travel into her hideout, and then you meet this character called Meryl, who seems to know her, and she's like, well, she's actually a really good person, so why don't you just leave her alone, kind of thing. And this is an arc that continues throughout the game. Same with this other character called Chadley, who is a Shinra research dude, and if you do his quests throughout the game, you can unlock different kinds of materia that you wouldn't unlock else places, including summoning materia for people like Shiva and Fat Chocobo, I believe it is, and Bahamut as well, that I haven't got yet, so I think you get it there. I'll have to come back and update that later. I would advise that you don't skip the side quests regardless though, because a lot of them will lead to story choices later in the game that can affect things. I won't go ahead and spoil those things because I think they're fun. It was when I went back through the second time, there was a whole cutscene that I hadn't seen, and I was just playing the game just like kind of mindlessly, like, yeah, let me get this thing, blah blah blah. And this cutscene started, and I was like, I hadn't seen this before, and then it ended up being the most emotional cutscene I've ever seen in my life, and I was a mess. Multiple playthroughs are definitely warranted because character choices have made a comeback. You will be presented with a few different choices throughout the game, and these will lead to multiple different outfits that you can get when you go to the Wall Market section. They will lead to different resolution moments in chapter 14, I believe. I think it's 14. They'll lead to different things. I'm not going to spoil it all because I think you should find it naturally, like I did going back through the second time and noticing changes and being like, oh my god, that's amazing. So the character choices, yeah, they have an impact. It's just amazing because every dumb thing that you remember from the original game is in there in some way, shape or form. Like, you have to all push the button at the same time to open the door in the Mako reactor. You can either go up the staircase and, like, I didn't see that until my second playthrough, but you can go up the staircase and it takes 59 floors and it's the funniest thing ever, as opposed to you can go in the elevator or bust through the door, so that's still there. Going into the little item shop in Wall Market that you click the computer button and it shoots you, that's still there. This guy are sick. He has a whole thing now. He is back and he is still that guy being sick. Another fun thing I noticed is the thugs that you take on in Sector 6 that keep popping up. They seem to be the redesigns of the ones you find underneath the golden source of the prison that keep mugging you. So that was really fun. So I hope they come back and they remember you from earlier in the story, because that would be really fun. Can we talk about the fact that when you get on the little arcade machine that goes down, it gives you the lucky sevens? Or the fact that later on in the game they reference console from Crisis Core? Every dumb thing you remember about this game is here and redone in a way, and it's just like slapping me in the face with a big baseball bat that someone's written the word nostalgia on, and I'm so here for it. So this game has a whole different bunch of mini games, and they're all in their own way different, and they don't feel intrusive either. So the first one you come across is the darts mini game, which is worth it because you get a luck up materia and you also get a trophy. So if you're going for that platinum, go for it. My recommendation is just do 6 bullseyes and then a single one. It took me longer than I'd care to admit, but we got it done. You've also got the squats, which is another reoccurring thing from the original game. You go to the gym and there's a guy called Jules and you can challenge each different member in the gym to squats, and that, I believe, will give you a trophy too. And then you come back later as Tifa and you're doing pull-ups. That one ended up being a little bit harder for me, especially when you fight Jules at the end. That took me, once again, longer than I would care to admit, but I got the trophy, so yeah. The thing that struck me first playing this game is just how breathtaking and stunning it is. If you just have a look at that opening cutscene from the original where you have the pan down to Aerith, pan out to the Shinra building, and then pan back in to the Sector 1 train station. It's the exact same thing, but it just feels so much more grounded and real, and the world feels so much more alive just from that one scene alone. You kind of see the not caringness of the people of Midgar when Aerith drops that flower, and it's when that shot pans out and you see Midgar in its entirety. That's when I was like, my mind was blown, because I played it on a fairly big TV and I'm just looking for, like, let's look for where they haven't put in any detail. And it's all there. You can see underneath the plate and around it and crazy stuff that you just wouldn't have seen in the original. So that's one of the first things that hit me, just how beautiful this game is. The locations themselves are just stunning. Aerith's house and Wall Market, my favorites in particular. Aerith's house is just heavenly. Like, when you play the original game and you go through that little alley and then it's there, that's a whole thing, there's a loading screen between that. But when you go from the Sector 6 slums, you actually walk around and you turn a corner and it hits you like this radiant kind of beauty from the heavens, this little diamond in the rough underneath the plate, and it's incredible. So whilst the game is breathtaking, it also doesn't stop in the foreground. The backdrops of this game are so jaw-dropping. Like when you stand in the slums and you just pan the camera around and you look up at the plate and the detail on it, it's so incredible, and you can definitely feel the weight and the oppression of the people, the city above, and how it reflects on the people living below it. Especially when you end up doing the climb to the upper plate and you can see the ruins of that plate dropping. I couldn't comprehend how you could put so much detail into a video game. This is a video game. This isn't like a Avengers Endgame, the movie. This is a video game, and they put so much detail into it. And I remember when Barrett's like, just remember this for you. Like, just remember this. This is important. Like, Barrett is such a leader in this game. It's fantastic. Something really cool that the story does, that the original game kind of lacked, is they make the consequences of Avalanche's decisions feel so real. So the first time in chapter 2 where you see the world reacting to the explosion of the reactor, it really changes how you see things. It really makes you question Avalanche's decisions to go ahead and whether they have the right to do this, even though the idea itself is correct, that you should preserve the planet and be eco-friendly and all that kind of fun stuff, but is it at what cost is the question that comes back. And that comes back later in the game when Barrett is talking to President Shinra, and he's like, hey, you can't say that this Mako, it hasn't changed people's life for the better. Even Cloud goes ahead and says it, and it's an ongoing dilemma throughout the game. Are they in the right? And that's fantastic. The aftermath of the Sector 7 plate falling changes the game entirely. The music in Aerith's town goes from Hollow to this other track. I don't know what it's called yet, but it's just really, really somber, and it just changes the mood, and people like freaking out and sad, and there's people like, oh, where's mom, and is she not coming back, and we'll see her tomorrow, and all that kind of stuff. Like, they really drive it home that this is a real thing. The world just feels so alive. Potentially my favorite thing about this game is the soundtrack. This soundtrack and every track in it is so distinctly Final Fantasy VII. Most of these tracks do come from the original game, but they've just been redone and enhanced, and there's different variations of them. The first time you hear the original battle theme, when you were in Sector, I want to say Sector 8, and you're just walking through in Chapter 2, and it kicks in, it was like drugs in your ears. Some of my favorite tracks on this game include the new version of Genova's theme. It starts off like a little different rendition of it, and then about halfway through the fight, it kicks in properly to the theme you know, and it turns into a proper headbanger. Like, I'm kicking butt, and I'm just like... Probably the coolest boss fight theme is definitely Airbuster. Aside from being the coolest theme, I think that's one of the more fun boss fights as well. It's just so fun, the way you have to take down the little components of it to change your chances of beating it and stuff like that. One of my favorite tracks is, it's a dumb one, but Oppressed People. When you're going through the tunnels with Aerith, it's like a kind of weird techno-y, hip-hoppy version of it that plays. I really dig that track. Ahead on Our Way, I love that one. That one just, it's so whimsical and about journeys and friendship and blah blah blah, all that fun stuff. I love that track. The two standouts for me, gotta be Aerith's theme. Obviously Aerith's theme, the main battle theme, and I actually really do dig the orchestral version of Hollow, which is the ending theme for the game that plays when you're in Aerith's town. On the topic of the music, there's something really small that I love in this game, which are these jukeboxes that you come across, which have like essentially the whole original soundtrack from the game just scattered across the world. So like you can find Cosmo Canyon, and they're all like turned into jazz pieces, and if you come across a jukebox in a section, you can change it to whatever song you like, and you do also get a trophy for finding them all. Of course you do. So I love that, and I especially love the Cosmo Canyon and the battle theme, which you find in the train graveyard. The train graveyard is one of my other favorite sections of this game. It took this little small journey between section of the original game, and they expanded it into this whole thing where these ghosts are kind of just lonely and they want to play with Aerith, and of course Aerith, being the wonderful fairy-like human character she is, she senses this and she's like, no, that was a game for them. They wanted to have fun, and it's really beautiful. And the lighting in that section is phenomenal too. And I think the ghost, I forgot what it's called, Spectre or something, that the final boss fight from that section, I really adore too. And then the getting in the train to move another train, just like in the original game. Yeah, I adore the train graveyard section quite a bit. My favourite part of this game is the Wall Market section from start to finish. I believe it starts in Chapter 9. You arrive in Wall Market with Aerith after she does the same thing she does in the original game, where you sneak out of her house. And I admittedly failed on purpose a few times to hear the different voice dialogue. So you sneak out of her house at night, you make your way to Sector 7, and then she's there just standing there like, hey, what's up? And it takes Cloud for a spin. Then you go through to Evergreen Park, and you have the notorious cutscene where you sit on top of the climbing frame and you talk about Soldier, and Zack gets referenced. And then if you want, you have the opportunity to let Cloud go down a slide, just because. Eventually you end up in Wall Market, and you're greeted by this guy called Chocobo Sam, who runs a Chocobo taxi service. And he ends up being one of what they call the trio, which are people put in charge of the auditions for Don Corneo, for his brides-to-be. So you make your way through, and the first person to greet you is just in the same as the original game. It's the guy who's like, do you guys need a place to stay? We've got a hotel and blah, blah, blah. And you get a character choice, a thing to say there too. And you make your way through, and it's Wall Market was fairly big in the original game compared to some of the other locations, like Sector 7 just was that one room, so was some of the other slum areas. Wall Market is even bigger than it was in the original game, and Wall Market feels like such a real place. It just feels like you just said, take this place from the real world and put it in this game. Every character interaction you have there is fantastic, from the gym to Madam M, she's really funny. Like, you get the different options of hand massage for Cloud and all that kind of stuff. You meet this guy called Leslie Kyle, who comes off with a bit of a backstory, you can kind of tell. He becomes a bit more important later in the game. And so you follow the same path that you would in the original game. You're going to go get an audition for Don Corneo's gig and bust out Tifa. It takes a slightly different turn than it does in the original, but everything is still there. So the guy with the medicine, the guy in the pharmacy, the guy in the restaurant, the guy in the clothes shop, it's all still there. They've just peppered in new stuff and made it flow amazingly. So there's a new character called Andrea, who's like the star of the Honeybee Inn, which isn't just what it was in the original game now. They have shows there. And he's basically Final Fantasy VII's RuPaul.
Remember, if you can't love yourself, how in the hell are you gonna love somebody else? Can I get an amen up in here?
Like, I'm super here for it. He's fabulous, and he's funny, and I really dig him. He ends up taking a shine to Cloud after you beat Hell House, which was the hardest fight in this game for me. My god, I can't tell you how much Hell House kicked me in my face. It was tough, and that was just a stupid fight in the original game. It was just a scary house, and now it's here kicking me left, right, and center. Takes a shine to you after that, and you go there to the Honeybee Inn, and Cloud is now a pro dancer, and you get dragged up in such a phenomenal way. It was amazing. I had an ear-to-ear smile the whole time. Eventually, you do get the gig and you meet Don Corneo, and he is just a sleazeball. Like, he is comically over-the-top sleazeball, but I don't have an issue with it, because that was one of the charming things about the original game, is that it was weird and wacky and over the top, but they didn't shy away from that. They brought it all back in. And it's there, and the voice actor we originally thought was Mark Hamill wasn't, but he does have a Mark Hamill essence to him, and yeah, Don Corneo, that whole section is fantastic. I can't say enough good things about Wall Market, but for the sake of not boring you all and wanting to preserve some of the integrity of it so you can enjoy it yourself, go play through it, because there's a lot of things to discover about Wall Market. The combat system of this game is very different to the original game, whilst holding an essence that feels true to it. if you click the classic mode and you think that you're going to get turn-based, you are unfortunately not. There was a time where it was implied that it would be like that, it's just not. But that didn't bother me at all because I fell in love instantly with the new combat system. I believe for many, many years that the Kingdom Hearts 2 battle system was the greatest battle system to ever exist in a video game ever, until I played this. I don't feel bad for loving the battle system in this game more, because I do believe it was the same team who made the one in Kingdom Hearts 2 that ended up making the one for this game. So it just feels like they've just progressed naturally as a team and they've done a fantastic job. So in the battle system for this game, you can play as anyone on your party, except for Red 13. You have the ATB system, which fills up slowly the more times if you block, or if you're running around or attacking. It doesn't really do much if you roll, because it's not that kind of game, but whatever. Some of the crazy things I've done in this game have mostly been by accident, including when you like to switch to Punisher mode and you like counter something that you wouldn't think you'd be able to counter. Like you can counter the Guard Scorpion as it jumps down from the ceiling and does all that crazy stuff. The weapons you get in this game you can upgrade as you go, and each weapon has its own ability equipped to it that if you use often enough will then just be equipped to your character. So then you can, if you want, stick through with just the Buster Sword throughout the entire game, which I did because it's aesthetically pleasing to me and I just like to feel OG. I think my favourite character ability in the game is Tifa's Star Shower, which just looks so flashy, and Tifa is probably one of my favourite characters to play as in combat. As far as limit breaks go, they're amazing, but you can miss them if you're not paying attention, because you don't, like in the original game, level up to unlock the next one. You have to actively find them in the game, so be on the lookout for that. Boss fights in this game are incredible. They have to go through different phases of the boss. Usually they'll have like a weak spot which you have to focus on before you can attack their direct HP, which is all fun and good. And as you're fighting Hell House, I hate that boss. I hate it so much. Now we come to my concerns of the game, because they are going to be continuing on into the series. And don't get me wrong, I love you Tetsuya Nomura, and I love you Yoshinori Kitase. I hope I pronounced your name right, by the way. But the ending of this game really, really worries me. Like, super worries me. In the lead up to this game, every single trailer I saw, I was thinking to myself, this is perfect. They get it, they understand. Like, they can do no wrong in my eyes. Everything I saw, I was in love with. Everything throughout the game, I was in love with. And you know what? There was one change, and yes, I mentioned this earlier in the video that spoilers will be a thing. So you've had your warning. There's a moment, kind of halfway through the game, after the Sector 7 plate falls, where it's revealed that Wedge is still alive. Now, I don't even have to tell you that if you play the original game, that dude is dead because a city fell on top of him. And I never questioned it because I thought, well, a city fell on top of him. But hear me out. It's revealed later that he actually lucks out because he falls down a whole thing and he's unconscious. And when Tifa checks on him and he's breathing, that was a change in the game that I was not expecting, but I was so okay with. And the reason I was okay with it is because it felt like the little spark of hope that things, you know, will eventually be okay in the story. I mean, I know the story because I've played it 100,000 times. But that small change after that Sector 7 plate falls, because of how well you did that scene with Aerith leading the escape and the townspeople coming together, and just how real it felt and how well done, I was so okay with you keeping Wedge alive because it just felt like that little bit of hope that the cast needed at the time. They needed it, and I was okay with it. But when we get to the end of the game, something I thought was going to happen did happen, but not in the way that I think it should have. Now look, I don't know if you did this to try and make the game feel more like a full, complete thing, where you needed to have a big, epic climax. I personally feel like no one would have complained if you just kept it a simple, self-contained story. I think the game works by itself. I don't think you needed to over-deliver in this one. You've done something very controversial in my eyes. I don't know how many people are going to agree with me. I think we've got another The Last Jedi situation on our hands. But let's just break it down. So we get to the end of the runway, the motorway, at the end of the Midgar section, which the Shinra building, I loved every second of that. I loved the NPCs in there. I loved the music, the museum with the diorama of the Shinra building, and the cutscene in the Bugenhagen style chamber that takes you up and you play the history of Midgar and Gaia. I loved all of that. So we go through that, we've escaped, we've got Aerith with us. One of my favorite cutscenes in the game is the one between Barrett and President Shinra, because it doesn't go quite how it goes in the original. In the original game, you leave, there's the eerie music playing, and you go up the stairs, follow the trail, and he's just dead with Sephiroth's sword in him. You've done it differently, but you've kept the same atmosphere. Like, you have him walk past Palmer, spill his tea, and it's scary, and you've kept the same atmosphere, and I love that. And the scene with Barrett, he's like, "Talk to me again like you know me, yeet!" And for a second, you think Barrett's actually just gonna let him go and drop him, but he doesn't. And I love that scene so much, because that's what this first game is. It's the story of Avalanche and their conflict with Shinra, with hints to the greater plot from Sephiroth and Jenova. That's what it should have been. So you get to the end of the runway, and Sephiroth's there. And then, and I can smell you, Nomura, I can smell you all over this, he basically goes ahead and says, "Yo, what's up? I'm Sephiroth, but anything that could happen isn't guaranteed." And then you start seeing clips from the original game, like Aerith's notorious scene. And then you see the ending scene with Red 13 and his cubs running up to the thing. And I remember just shaking my head like, no, guys, stop. You're showing way too much. Like, just stop. Like, it's cool. You're hitting with me with the nostalgia across the head. And I love that, but stop, because it's too soon. It's too soon to drop this element of the story into what should just be a self-contained Avalanche versus Shinra. But you didn't stop there. Aerith basically says, and Red 13 agrees with her, that Destiny is going to call the meteor, that Sephiroth's going to do his thing. Basically, the story of Final Fantasy VII, they basically say, we need to not let that happen. So we now have to fight Destiny. So those Dementors, the Whispers of Destiny that you've seen all throughout the game, they are basically the Reapers from Doctor Who. Doctor Who Season 1, the excellent episode where Rose goes back to try to save her dad, does the thing, and then like the universe is just like, no, we don't like that, and they send in the Reapers. That's basically what they are. So that happens, and then you end up fighting this giant, for want of a better word, Heartless. It was a Heartless, Nomura. You done put Kingdom Hearts 3 in this Final Fantasy VII Remake. I love Kingdom Hearts, but I didn't want it in my Final Fantasy VII. For very good reason. Death means something in Final Fantasy. When a character dies, you feel it, and it's important, and it teaches you life lessons, and it shows you sacrifice, and it gives the characters motivation to continue going forward. Whereas Kingdom Hearts is like, this character died. They can't come back. But wait, they can. Because now they're a Heartless. Cool, let's kill the Heartless. No. Because now they're a nobody. Okay, well I guess we'll kill the nobody. No, you see? Because if you kill me, then my Heartless, then my nobody. Guess what happens? What happens? I come back. So you're saying that no one can ever die ever? Yeah, kinda. I don't like that. In my Final Fantasy. In my Kingdom Hearts, sure, because it's Disney. And Disney kind of has a thing about not killing anyone, so I'm cool with it. Don't put it in my Final Fantasy, please. Because other stuff happens. You have the giant Heartless and they kick its butt. And I was playing the fight and I was just shaking my head the whole time. I was like, please, I'm begging you, hear me through the power of the Force. Hear me, please don't let this happen. And it does, and you beat Destiny. And then you fight Sephiroth, and I was okay with that because I thought, you know what? In the original game, it's only a couple, maybe 3 or 4 hours later that you fight the first Sephiroth clone thingy. I didn't mind you shifting that first encounter a little bit earlier, just so that people felt enticed for part 2 or whatever it may be. I wouldn't have had a problem with that, and you couldn't have really had the last boss be that robot car thingy from the original, because that's not in any way poetic. So I was okay with you adding Sephiroth in there, but I think you should have just gone motorway car battle thingy, Sephiroth credits. But you went motorway battle car thingy, Sephiroth, take on Destiny, and then Sephiroth battle, which admittedly was super fun, and the rendition of One Winged Angel you got in there is phenomenal. I love it a whole bunch. But the problem is, you showed more. You did this whole grandiose thing that when you get to the last chapter, whatever, how many we're going to do, it's not going to feel as good because you went from 0 to 100 in game 1. And on top of that, you just replicated the ending of Final Fantasy VII where Cloud goes through that thing and he's like floating, and then Sephiroth's there with his shirt off. He had his shirt on in this one though, so that's a shame. I could have done it with some shirtless Sephiroth, but whatever. And he basically says, yeah, come with me, Cloud. Together we can rule the No, that's fine. He says, come with me, Cloud, and we can beat Destiny. And Cloud's like, no. Which is good, because this what it means is, it's not too late to say things. And then, you showed Zack. You showed us the ending of Crisis Core. And it is implied that Zack survives. Now, I didn't pick up on this on my first playthrough because I guess I was hopeful. But it's implied that Zack survives, therefore taking away so much from Cloud's personal story. If Zack survives that encounter, I think you really nullify part of Aerith's story too, but you really nullify Cloud's story, and you nullify Zack's sacrifice, and you nullify so much legacy of this game. But it's not too late, because I wrote a note about how you can fix this. So we are aware that there is different timelines, right? In one of these timelines, hey, Biggs is also alive. That one, I just put the controller down and said, what are you doing, guys? Guys, what the hell are you doing? If anything, bring back Jesse. No, I'm joking, don't. Sacrifice has to happen for a reason. Just come back in part 2 and say, yeah, this you changed things, but it was in a different timeline, so don't even worry about it. We are still going to stick to the original story. I am honestly begging you. I am bearing my soul to you, please. I loved this game so much. The ending, it was like someone was coming towards my face with pizza. And my mouth was open, ready to receive that pizza. And I'm loving it. I'm loving every second of this experience. And then as you get to my mouth, you slap me across the face with a slice. That's what the ending of this game felt like. And it feels horrible to admit that, because I can see how much love and effort and time you put into this. And believe me, I am so appreciative. I loved every second of this game up until that point. And I guess the saving grace of it, at least it looked pretty. But I'm begging you, please don't go off course, because if you do, then that title, it's misleading. There's only one thing we wanted. We just want to see that game one more time. We liked that one. That song you played, play it again. That's all we're asking for. Encore. The same. Just on PS4. Well, probably PS5. I remember the first time I watched Advent Children and thinking, my god, if video games themselves could look this good, I would love to see them remake Final Fantasy VII with Advent Children quality graphics. And yeah, look, they went ahead and did it. And how does it feel returning to the world of Final Fantasy VII? It feels like coming home. I can't tell you the amount of times that I've cried whilst playing this game. I cried when the game opened for the first time. Even though I'd played the demo, it's a really different experience when you have the actual game and it's not a demo and you know that you're going to continue and the whole game is there. I cried there. I cried the first time you saw Tifa outside of 7th Heaven. I cried when you wake up in the church and Aerith is there. I cried big time when that happened. I cried at the ending for different reasons. So the journey to this game was a very long one. Like I said, the tech demo from 2005 showed off this new fancy hardware, promoting the idea that possibly we would get a remake of Final Fantasy VII on that console generation. That did not happen. Here we are now. And in 2015, I think it was, is when it first unveiled and people lost their mind, myself included. I remember I woke up one day and I had a text from my brother, who was the person who introduced me to the original game. And he said, they're doing it, it's happened, they're remaking Final Fantasy VII. And the first time I saw that trailer, man, I cried. I cried a lot because it just felt so magical that we could actually go back, that it just felt like a company was kind of going, yeah, we're listening, because there was talks about we're never going to do this because like our other games aren't beating it yet, so we need to top it. Like, I guess it was a pride thing, but when they finally gave in and said we're doing this, it felt really good. Funniest thing about that was when Tetsuya Nomura found out that he was directing it as they played that trailer, because it said directed by Tetsuya Nomura, and he was like, I'm doing what now? So that was really funny. In summary, I really, really love this game. I don't think you could have done a better job, and I think it's so obvious how much love and care they put into this product. It feels like a homecoming, and I can't say enough good things about it. That being said, I am still worried about the story of the plot going forward, and I do sincerely beg you to stay very true to the original story as possible, because I think it's very important to do so. Whilst expanding on it, feel free to throw in new characters, maybe a new location, different ideas and themes, but I don't think you should diverge from the main story, because I feel like a lot of people will feel kind of burnt by that, because I think when we say Final Fantasy VII Remake, I think we want that same thing again. So I'm giving Final Fantasy VII Remake a 9. I'm giving it a 9. I'm giving it a 9. A cautious 9. And I hope to see more of this soon. Hopefully not 5 years. I think 2 works. 2 years. So we'll see you in 2 years, Squeenix. Thank you.
Harley Quinn here. Don't forget to subscribe to my Put in Paradox for more geeky content. Also, don't forget to hit that little bell so you get notified whenever he posts a brand new video.